Habakkuk. Sometimes pronounced Habakkuk, but I prefer Habakkuk. What do we know about this guy? Like all the prophets, all the minor prophets at least, we know almost nothing. Matter of fact, I think we know less about him than anybody else. I might have said that about some of the other prophets I've read, but this guy really is. The other prophets, they usually tells us either who their father was or what town they're from. Habakkuk doesn't tell us either one. All he says is he was a prophet. That's all the information we get from the Bible. Habakkuk the prophet. Now, when did he prophesy? Doesn't tell us. Where did he prophesy? Where did he live? Again, doesn't tell us. No clue. Now, you can glean some things here and there and try to piece it together. But it's all speculation because we're not told. So, for instance, he speaks primarily about the rise of the Chaldeans. Now, the Chaldeans, that's not exactly the Babylonians. They're like the ruling class of the Babylonian nation. They were the warrior class. And they arise a little before 600 BC. So, he had to have prophesied a little before 600 BC, most likely. Or during that time, during their rise, as they were coming up. So around there, which is the time that Jeremiah is prophesied. This is the time of Josiah, who died in 611 BC. I mean, I'll have to talk about timing later, but he died in 611. Jehoiakim is king from 611 to 600. So Habakkuk probably prophesied either in the reign of Josiah or in the reign of Jehoiakim. But, yeah, we don't know. It could have been earlier. It almost certainly wasn't later, though, because prophesying of something that already happened doesn't make sense. Now, it's also theorized that he lived in Jerusalem because his prophecies are focused on Jerusalem. But that's the extent of our knowledge. However, outside the Bible, there are some hints that we get. Now, there is this one theory in the Masoretic text, which is the tradition of the Jewish rabbis, and this states that he was the son of the Shunammite woman that Elisha had promised to her. This is recorded in 2 Kings chapter 4. Now, this is way back in the day. This is just after, or actually I think Ahab is still king in Israel. So we're talking a couple hundred years earlier. Unlikely, I think. Unlikely. Partly the reason why it's unlikely is because I don't think he would have been giving the prophecy that he does that much in advance because of the way it's written. The other reason is that even though he is not mentioned in the Bible in any way outside of the book of Habakkuk, he is mentioned in the Apocrypha. Now, the Apocrypha, these are books that were considered scripture by the Jews, and they were included both in the Septuagint, when it was translated in, when the Jewish scripture was translated into Greek, and in the Latin Vulgate, and is still used by the Catholic Church. It is still part of the Catholic canon of scriptures. It was rejected by Protestants in the late 1800s, but in the book titled Bel and the Dragon, this book is extras, kind of an additional narrative about Daniel the prophet. And in this book, we have mention of Habakkuk. It says that Habakkuk the prophet was sent by an angel to bring food to Daniel while he was in the lion's den to sustain him. I'm not sure how much I actually believe that this story is true. It kind of conflicts a bit with the story that's in the book of Daniel in the Bible. But it does place him in this time period. Now, Daniel, the time of the Daniel in the lion's den is even after Babylon. It's after Persia has conquered Babylon. So Habakkuk, his prophecies would have been before or during the early years of the rise of Babylon. But he is still a prophet and alive when Daniel is cast into the lion's den, according to the Apocrypha, according to the book The Bell and the Dragon. So if we take this to be true, which it's actually more likely to be true than the theory of him being the son of the Shunammite woman, that puts him right here, somewhere either in Josiah or Jehoiakim's reign. So we're going to read about him now. Now, I do want to say one last thing about old Habakkuk, is that his book, it's not long, I think it's only 3 chapters again, but it is considered one of the greater literary works of the Bible. He is considered to be a master in literary art. And this is because the last chapter is actually a song. It is a psalm. And because of this, it is theorized again, because we don't know, it's not stated, but it is theorized that he was one of the Levite singers, that he is a descendant of Asaph, the great poet. the great psalmist and conductor that lived in the time of David. It is theorized that he is a descendant of Asaph and was one of the Levite singers. But that's the extent of our knowledge and the extent of our speculations. We got nothing else. So let's have fun reading Habakkuk.